Hey, Cowboys Nation! Today, we are diving deep into the whirlwind surrounding the Dallas Cowboys, and specifically the chaos that seems to be brewing within the defensive coaching staff. The topic on everyone's mind right now is whether Matt Eberflus should be shown the door, and let's be honest, it is not a simple conversation. The defense has struggled in several critical areas, and fans are understandably frustrated. The secondary has been giving up blown coverages week after week, leaving holes that opponents have exploited ruthlessly. At linebacker, the communication and alignment issues have been glaring, and even though the defensive line hasn't been completely ineffective, it hasn't been enough to compensate for the lapses elsewhere. The bigger problem isn't just one player or one unit. It's a combination of missteps that seem to trace back to decision-making at the top of the defensive hierarchy. When you start to break it down, you realize that many of the assistants currently in place, such as Andre Curtis, Dave Borganzi, and David Overeat, all share a history with Eberflus from Chicago. That familiarity might have been the selling point when they were brought on board, but it's also becoming a glaring vulnerability. When your coaching tree is essentially an echo chamber, the risk is that the same mistakes get amplified rather than corrected. The question becomes, how do you fix that mid-season, if at all? Now, hypothetically, if the Cowboys were to part ways with Eberflus right now, the internal options to replace him are tricky. You have people like J.J. Clark, who has experience calling plays, but primarily at much lower levels and as a defensive assistant. He's competent, but is he ready to take the reins of an NFL defense in the middle of a challenging season? Probably not. Then there's Aaron White-Cotton, an outside hire who could bring fresh perspectives to the defense. He hasn't been tied to Eberflus, which could be a blessing, and he might implement different schemes, perhaps integrating more man-to-man coverage or some of the aggressive strategies that we know have worked elsewhere. But here's the reality. Jerry Jones, as history shows, isn't a fan of firing coaches mid-season, even coordinators. Allegedly, there was a moment when Mike Nolan was nearly let go, but internal drama and the optics of admitting error prevented that decision. So while fans clamor for immediate changes, the likelihood of a mid-season shakeup remains slim. That doesn't mean the conversation isn't important, though. The discussions happening right now set the stage for major off-season decisions and could influence how the team approaches coaching hires in the future. Looking further ahead, it's essential to understand the landscape of potential candidates should Eberflus be let go. There are four broad categories to consider. Those connected to regime change situations, up-and-comers with limited coordinator experience, currently unemployed coaches who could be available immediately, and experienced candidates who have called defensive plays in the NFL before. In the first category, there are names like Aaron Glenn, who has navigated some turbulent waters in New York, and Anthony Weaver from Miami, whose defenses have had mixed results. The trick with these candidates is timing. Many of them are entrenched in other roles, and their availability could hinge on circumstances beyond the Cowboys' control. For example, a head coach being fired elsewhere could open a spot, but that's unpredictable. Then there's the up-and-comers, young coaches with promising track records, but limited exposure at the highest levels. Al Harris, DeMarcus Covington, Chris Couric, Michael Hutchkins, Robert Livingston, and Aubrey Pleasant all fall into this category. Some have demonstrated exceptional ability in position-specific roles, particularly with defensive backs or defensive line units. But moving from a specialized role to full defensive coordinator responsibility is a significant leap. This is why, if the Cowboys do go in this direction, it must be done thoughtfully with a proper search and evaluation process. The past mistakes of hiring someone solely because they are familiar or trusted internally, like what happened with Eberflus and Mike Zimmer, serve as cautionary tales. A thorough, deliberate search is critical to avoid repeating history. The third category includes coaches who are currently unemployed. These are individuals like Mike Zimmer, Rex Ryan, Antonio Pierce, and Gerard Mayo. Each comes with their own baggage and past performances, and while availability is a major plus, the risk factors are higher. For instance, Rex Ryan's time away from coaching has been long, and bringing him back could disrupt team dynamics more than it helps. Similarly, while Mike Zimmer has experience, his previous results indicate that he may not be the transformative hire that fans hope for. The fourth category, experienced coordinators who have called defensive plays in the NFL, includes names such as Ryan Nielsen, Leslie Frazier, Jim Leonard, Joe Cullen, Ken Norton Jr., and Don Martindale. These are individuals with proven track records and a deep understanding of defensive schemes. The appeal here is their ability to hit the ground running and implement strategies that can stabilize and improve the defense quickly. However, some of these candidates come with their own controversies or limitations, and their fit within the Cowboys' current coaching culture must be carefully evaluated. Martindale, for example, is known for aggressive, blitz-heavy approaches, which could be a stark contrast to the current style. Jim Leonard brings a mix of college and NFL experience, having coordinated defenses at Wisconsin before moving into NFL roles, and represents a bridge between proven systems and innovative adjustments. The key takeaway is that any decision on this front requires a balance between experience, adaptability, and the potential to positively impact player performance immediately. Looking at the current defensive struggles, it's clear that the secondary has been under enormous pressure. Blown coverages and missed assignments have turned games that could have been winnable into losses. The linebackers have struggled with communication and alignment, creating gaps that opposing offenses exploit repeatedly. Even though the defensive line has not been as disastrous as the other units, it hasn't been enough to keep the defense competitive at key moments. Part of the challenge is play calling and decision-making. When the coordinator's approach is not yielding results, the ripple effect is felt across every position group. Choosing the right person to take over mid-season is delicate. Internal options like Clark may provide continuity but lack the decisive impact, whereas external candidates could inject new ideas but require careful onboarding. The Cowboys need someone who can immediately improve coverage assignments, tighten linebacker play, and implement strategies that maximize the strengths of the roster. It's not just about schemes on paper. It's about adjusting to in-game situations, motivating players, and creating a defensive identity that the team can rally around. The conversation about potential replacements also highlights how interconnected coaching networks are in the NFL. Many assistants and coordinators have histories with multiple teams, and their past successes or failures are often a strong predictor of how they might perform in a new environment. For instance, connections between coaches from previous stops can offer insight into their philosophy and approach to defensive football, but familiarity alone is not enough to guarantee success. The Cowboys search, if done properly, should consider not just tactical knowledge, but leadership ability, adaptability, and how candidates interact with players and other coaches. The mistakes of hiring someone based primarily on trust or past relationships underscore the importance of casting a wide net and evaluating each candidate rigorously. In particular, evaluating up-and-comers, under-the-radar candidates, and experienced coordinators alike requires attention to detail and a willingness to look beyond conventional names. Football history is full of examples where unconventional hires yielded outstanding results, just as there are plenty of cases where familiar names failed to meet expectations. At this point, one of the most important messages for fans is patience and perspective. While it's tempting to demand immediate change, especially when defensive lapses are costing games, structural changes in coaching often take time to yield results. Mid-season firings are rare in the NFL, not because of reluctance to act, but because the complexity of integrating a new coordinator mid-season can disrupt team cohesion. The Cowboys must weigh short-term improvements against long-term stability and ensure that whoever takes the reins is prepared to lead a defense that has shown both potential and vulnerability. Fans can debate names endlessly, from regime change candidates to up-and-comers, to those currently unemployed or experienced coordinators, but the front office has to consider fit, philosophy, and immediate impact before making a move. This is not about reactionary decisions. It's about making a choice that positions the Cowboys for success both now and in the future. Continuing from where we left off, let's dive deeper into the pool of potential defensive coordinator options and what each could realistically bring to the Dallas Cowboys if a change happens. One of the fascinating things about the NFL is how much coaching reputations and past networks influence decisions. When looking at candidates, it's not just about their current title or team. It's about the system they've been part of, the schemes they've run, and how adaptable they are to a roster like the Cowboys. For example, someone like Al Harris might pop up immediately in conversations because of his position coaching history, but context matters. Last season, the defense he was connected to struggled significantly in points allowed per game, which raises questions about whether he's ready for a full coordinator role. He is young, promising, and full of energy, but making the leap from a positional coach to leading an entire defense in the NFL is enormous. This is where a proper interview process comes into play. The Cowboys need to ensure that if they consider up-and-comers like Harris, Michael Hutchkins, Robert Livingston, or Aubrey Pleasant, they're evaluating not just talent, but readiness and strategic acumen under pressure. A name that might not be on the radar for most fans could have exactly the right approach for the Cowboys' defensive issues, especially someone who is detail-oriented and understands modern NFL offenses at a granular level. DeMarcus Covington, for example, has experience as a defensive coordinator in New England, and while his record has been mixed, it shows that he's operated in high-pressure environments and has exposure to top-tier defensive talent. Similarly, Chris Kurrick has consistently produced strong results on the defensive line in San Francisco, and that ability to maximize positional strength could translate into a broader coordinator role if given the right support and mentorship. Michael Hutchkins, only 30 years old, is learning under seasoned leaders and shows potential for long-term growth. Even college coaches like Robert Livingston have shown promise, running defensive schemes that exceed expectations and developing players effectively. While bringing someone directly from college into an NFL coordinator role is less conventional for the Cowboys culture, it cannot be entirely dismissed, especially if their approach fits the team's current needs and philosophy. On the other hand, experienced options bring a different kind of security. Coaches like Jim Leonard, Ryan Nielsen, Joe Cullen, Don Martindale, and Leslie Frazier have all spent years in coordinator or assistant roles and understand the intricacies of NFL defenses at the highest level. Leonard, for instance, has experience as a college defensive coordinator at Wisconsin and has transitioned into NFL roles where he focuses on the passing game. His knowledge of both college and pro schemes could allow him to implement a nuanced system that leverages the strengths of the Cowboys roster, particularly in the secondary and linebacker groups. Martindale is a more aggressive choice, known for heavy blitz schemes, and while that can be exciting, it may clash with what players are accustomed to or what the head coach envisions. Ryan Nielsen has bounced around multiple coordinator positions, offering experience but also carrying a mixed record. Choosing someone with prior coordinator experience requires balancing proven ability with the likelihood that their approach will mesh with the current roster. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. There's a storm brewing in Texas, and this one doesn't come from the weather. According to growing whispers around league circles, the Dallas Cowboys have pulled off a move that could completely change the trajectory of their season, a blockbuster deal for none other than BUDDA, the hard-hitting safety from Arizona. While nothing has been made official yet, insiders close to both camps suggest that talks have accelerated in recent days, with multiple sources hinting that the deal is all but done. If true, this is the kind of move that sends shockwaves through the NFL. Baker, a five-time Pro Bowler and one of the league's most respected defensive leaders, would instantly give the Cowboys' secondary the edge it's been craving. Known for his relentless motor, explosive closing speed, and emotional intensity, Baker could bring the kind of fire that Dallas has sometimes lacked in big moments. Imagine pairing him with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, a trio that could redefine the meaning of America's team defense. Rumors began to swirl earlier this week when Baker was mysteriously absent from team activities in Arizona, fueling speculation that trade talks were underway. Sources inside the Cowboys organization have remained tight-lipped, but one anonymous executive was overheard saying, "If this happens, it changes everything." That alone has sent fans into a frenzy across social media, where hashtags like hashtag #BUDDA and hashtag #CowboysExplosion have trended overnight. For a team constantly chasing the shadow of its own legacy, This could be the statement move Jerry Jones has been waiting to make. The Cowboys' defense is already among the league's best statistically, but adding a leader like Baker could push them from contenders to favorites. Whether it's true or not, the buzz is real, and the entire NFL is holding its breath. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.